So in the last video we have seen about calyx and corolla, and they doesn't take part directly in reproduction. Now we will see the reproductive parts of the flower. The first one being Androecium. It is the male part. So it is composed of units called stamen. So if you take a stamen, there will be thin tube-like structure that is known as filament, and a two-lobed or bilobed, that is the word here. So bilobes means there are two lobes, and this structure is known as anther, and inside this lobe there will be pollen grains which bear the male gamete. So these chambers or sacs actually hold pollen grains, hence they are also known as pollen sacs. So if the Androecium is producing pollen with male gamete, that is this kind of stamen is actually fertile one, that is it is capable of giving rise to next progeny. Whereas if the stamen is unable to bear pollen grain, it is known as a sterile stamen, and it is denoted by a special term staminode. So if a stamen may be either fertile, that is it will bear pollen grains containing male gametes, or if the anther is lacking the pollen grains containing male gamete, in that case the stamen will be known as sterile, as it is incapable of giving rise to next progeny, and it is known as staminode. So stamens may be united either among themselves or with the other members of the flower. So if the stamen right here, if the stamen is attached to petal, in that case it is known as epipetalous. So if the stamen is fused to the petal, in that case it is known as epipetalous. So if you can see that kind of arrangement in brinjal plant. And if the stamen is attached to perianth, so perianth we have seen, if we cannot distinguish between calyx and corolla, in that case we will use a common term, that is perianth. If the stamen is attached to the perianth, in that case it is known as epiphyllous. So example, lily flower. So the stamens may be either free, so that without touching it may remain either free, in that case it is known as polyandrous. If the stamens are not attached with each other among themselves, and if they are free, they are known as polyandrous. And if they are united, they may be united in bundles. So if they are arranged together in one bundle, so all the stamens are arranged in one bundle, it is known as monadelphous. The example you can see in hibiscus. In the top you can see a tube-like structure, right? So this is actually a complete fusion. It is all the male part, the stamen are fused together. So in that case it is known as monadelphous. If the stamens are arranged in two bundles, in that case it is known as diadelphous. Example, pea plant. And if the arrangement is more than, if the stamen is arranged in more than two bundles, it is known as polyadelphous. So if all the stamens are united together in single bundle, it is known as monadelphous. And if all the stamens are arranged in two bundles, it is known as diadelphous. And if all the stamens are arranged in more than two bundles, that case it is known as polyadelphous. So you can see that arrangement in mustard plant. So next part is the gynoecium, which is the female reproductive part. It actually contains three parts. So the bottom layer is ovary. Inside the ovary you can see the ovules. So the long tube-like structure is actually style. On the top you have stigma. So on the stigma the pollen grains will lay. This style will connect the ovule and the stigma. This ovule will later develop into seed, and ovary will develop into fruit. That's what is given here. So each ovary bears one or more ovaries attached. Okay. So inside the ovary, if you see, there will be a cushion-like tissue. So inside the ovary there will be cushion-like tissue, and that tissue is known as placenta. So there will be a tissue, cushion-like tissue inside the ovary, that is known as placenta. And attached to the in this placenta only you can see the ovules. And if there is only one carpel, it is known as apocarpus, and they will be free. So if the carpels are free, it is apocarpus. Actually, carpel is another term for pistil. So far you have learned the term pistil, right? So carpel or pistil is actually unit of gynoecium. If they are free, it is known as apocarpus, and if they are united or fused, it is known as syncarpus. The free apocarpus, you can cite it in lotus or rose, and the syncarpus, if the carpels are fused together, it is syncarpus, and you can see that in mustard or tomato. This is what I have said before. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into fruits. So I have said, right. So in the ovary, there will be a cushion-like structure in which the ovules will be attached. So based on how they are attached, you have these kind of variations, and the arrangement of ovules inside the ovary is denoted by a special term, placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. So it is of different kinds. So first one being the marginal. It is found in the margin. It may look familiar, like that P which we are buying and using. So this you can see it is forming a ridge. The placenta is actually forming a ridge in the margin in which the seeds are embedded. So next one being axile placentation. Here the ovary, I said this is ovary, right? The ovaries are divided into chambers called locules by septa. So the partition which is dividing the locules into ovary into locules is known as septa, and in the center you can see the ovules attached. So next one being parietal placentation. Here there are no septa. So the ovary and the placenta will appear as a single unit, and to the margin of this ovary the ovules are attached, and this type is known as parietal placentation. And if all the ovules are embedded in the center and the ovary is without partition, this kind is known as free central placentation. And if there is a single ovule at the base, this is known as basal placentation. Examples are given here. You can go through. So we will see the main thing here. So that is types of placentation. Based on how the ovules are arranged on the ovary, you have various types. The first one being the marginal placentation, where in the margin the placenta will form a ridge in which the seeds are attached. In the case of axial placentation, the ovary is divided into chambers or locules by septa. In the center the ovules are attached. So in the case of parietal placentation, the ovules are attached to the margin of the ovary. In the case of free central placentation, the ovules are attached to the center of the ovary. And if there is a single ovule at the base, that kind is known as basal placentation.